Chapter 4162. Lu Ming fused more than 50 talismans into his cells. He could feel that the forbidden energy had become even stronger. Each of his cells had been fused with the forbidden energy. Therefore, when the talismans fused with his cells, they fused with the forbidden energy in his cells and made his forbidden energy become even stronger. The more cells fused with the forbidden energy, the stronger the forbidden energy became. Of course, it wasn't an increase in quantity, it was a change in quality. Lu Ming was about to continue hunting for the ordinary secret skills of the ancient sorcerer shrine when he suddenly sensed a terrifying strength above his head. It was a destructive strength. It was extremely violent and was moving towards Lu Ming. It seemed like it could destroy everything in its path. The Great Destruction Spell. Lu Ming didn't need to look, he could sense that it was one of the ancient secret skills, the Great Destruction Spell. That person had the strength of the third Great Supreme God Layer. He had been fighting against the Great Supreme God Layer of the Great Supreme God Layer. He had probably seen Lu Ming and wanted to kill Lu Ming. His murderous intent toward Lu Ming was extremely intense, second only to Yiyu. Without the slightest hesitation, Lu Ming took out the Bingxian cudgel. The taboo power surged into the Bingxian cudgel crazily and he smashed it upward. Boom boom boom. The dark ice staff and the destructive energy kept colliding, creating earth-shattering explosions. However, Lu Ming's combat power was still inferior to the other parties. The Bingxian rod vibrated violently and a powerful force rushed into his body along with the Bingxian rod. His body shook violently as if he had been hit by a huge mountain. His body fell to the ground. A few strong cultivators of the Great Sorcerer Shrine and the Ancient Sorcerer Shrine were hit by Lu Ming and exploded. Let's see where you can run today. The Great Art of Destruction bellowed. His body was no longer in human form. Instead, it transformed into a ball of energy. A ball of destructive energy charged toward Lu Ming. It was like a meteorite smashing toward Lu Ming. It was extremely powerful. The surrounding people, regardless of whether they were from the Grand Magus Temple or the Ancient Sorcerer Temple, were all terrified. They quickly retreated, afraid that they would be dragged into the battle. Before the attack arrived, Lu Ming felt a strong pressure. Lu Ming's body trembled. The first-grade celestial soldier armor was activated, and a light barrier enveloped him. However, just as Lu Ming was about to activate his Tier 1 Heavenly Soldier battle armor, a ray of divine light suddenly shot towards Lu Ming from his left. Fast, it was extremely fast. Lu Ming couldn't dodge in time and was directly hit by the divine light. His body shook violently, and the first-grade celestial soldier armor also shook violently, its energy dimming. One attack had consumed all the energy of the first-level celestial soldier's armor. He was a cultivator of the third Great Supreme God Layer. As for the divine light, it flew back a certain distance before stopping. Only then did Lu Ming clearly see the appearance of the person who attacked him. It was a beam of divine light. This was the person's true form. Could it be one of the 3,000 ancient secret skills, the Great Aurora Technique? Lu Ming's heart stirred. The Great Aurora Technique was one of the top 3,000 ancient secret skills. It was as famous as the Great Destruction Technique and the Great Teleportation Technique. They were all in the top 100. Obviously, the Great Aurora Technique had also reached the third Great Supreme God Layer. It had destroyed the first-grade Celestial Soldier's armor in one attack. The Great Art of Destruction seized the opportunity and continued to attack Lu Ming. "Destruction, I'm your opponent," shouted someone furiously. It was a cultivator of the third Great Supreme God Layer from the Great Sorcerer Shrine. He ran towards the Great Destruction Spell, trying to stop it. However, a silver spear pierced through the air towards the cultivator of the Great Sorcerer Temple. It had the strength of the third Great Supreme God Layer. The cultivator of the Great Sorcerer Temple didn't dare be careless. He had no choice but to stop and block the silver spear. "You should stay here," said a tall and slender silhouette. His golden hair was fluttering in the wind. His chi was incredible. If it wasn't Yiyu, who else could it be? "You're an outsider's genius. Let me fight you," shouted the cultivator of the Great Sorcerer Temple as he charged towards Yiyu. However, Yu's silhouette flickered and he dodged the attack. However, when the cultivator attacked the Great Destruction technique, Yu would stop him. Boom. At that moment, Lu Ming had already used the second attack of the Great Destruction technique. This time, Lu Ming was still pushed back and coughed up blood. Without the defense of the first-grade Heavenly Soldier armor, Lu Ming could not completely block the attack of the Great Art of Destruction with the Bingxian Rod alone. There would still be residual power bombarding his body. Even if he cast the Great Defense skill, he would not be able to block it and would be injured. Die. Seeing that Lu Ming was injured, the cultivator of the Great Destruction technique became even more excited. He looked even more ferocious as he charged towards Lu Ming. I can only dodge for now. Unfortunately, it seems like I won't be able to get more talismans. Lu Ming sighed in his heart and planned to use the Great Shift technique to dodge. It was a pity that he would lose so many talismans. However, if he stayed, he might really be killed by the Great Destruction technique. Moreover, there was the Great Aurora technique beside him. Whoosh! Lu Ming used the Great Shift technique and disappeared from where he was. However, the moment Lu Ming disappeared from the spot, the Great Aurora skill was unleashed. His form was a beam of light. Like a divine saber, it flashed and disappeared. Then, it slashed at a spot in the void. At that moment, Lu Ming, who was using the Great Shift technique, felt a sense of danger. He activated the Bingxian staff with all his might and attacked in the direction of the danger. Clang! A beam of divine light struck the Bingxian staff. Lu Ming's body was sent flying out of the dark void and reappeared in front of everyone. The Great Aurora technique is so powerful that it can penetrate the dark void and attack me. Lu Ming was shocked. The Great Aurora technique directly interrupted the Great Shift technique. It seemed that no ancient secret technique was invincible and could be restrained. When Lu Ming reappeared, the attack of the Great Destruction technique had already arrived. The violent and terrifying power of destruction rushed toward Lu Ming. This is troublesome. Lu Ming felt his heartbeat quicken. At that moment, he had just used up his old strength and had yet to generate new strength. Even if he wanted to use the Bingxian staff to resist, he was powerless. The attack of the Great Destruction technique was about to land on him. At that moment, Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Because he felt that the archaic celestial stone in his sea of consciousness was vibrating on its own. Then, an invisible wave was emitted from his sea of consciousness. From the outside, people could only see that a black light was emitting from Lu Ming's glabella. It spread out like a wave. When this wave enveloped the Great Destruction technique, the terrifying power emitted by the Great Destruction technique dissipated at an astonishing speed. The aura of the Great Destruction technique also declined rapidly. What's going on? What's going on? The Great Destruction technique cried out in horror. Chapter 4163. The Great Art of Destruction screamed in horror as he felt an unprecedented weakness. This kind of weakness made him incomparably terrified. Lu Ming also noticed the abnormality. He felt that the Great Art of Destruction was extremely weak, even weaker than a first-layer Divine Emperor. It was as if he had become a Divine Emperor. Lu Ming would not miss such an opportunity. He waved the mysterious ice staff and attacked. Although the staff did not unleash its strongest power, it was still very shocking. The huge mysterious ice staff pressed down, causing the Great Art of Destruction to scream in horror. Oh, how is this possible? My strength, where is my strength? The Great Art of Destruction screamed in horror. He used all his strength, but he felt that his strength was extremely weak. It was many times weaker than before. He could not block Lu Ming's attack. His strength could not withstand a single blow from the mysterious ice staff, and he was forced to retreat. With a loud bang, the mysterious ice staff landed on the Great Art of Destruction, causing a huge explosion. The mysterious ice staff was directly destroyed, leaving a secret skill rune floating in the air. The secret skill rune shone brightly, trying to escape. However, Lu Ming reached out and grabbed the secret skill rune formed by the Great Art of Destruction. Let go of me, let go of me. The voice of the Great Art of Destruction came from the secret skill rune, but the voice was filled with horror. Lu Ming could not be bothered with him and kept it in his storage ring. This is... Not far away, the great art of extreme light saw this scene and was completely stunned. He had no idea what was going on. Why did the great art of destruction suddenly become so weak? Where did his strength go? Why was he killed by Lu Ming in one move? What was going on? At this moment, Lu Ming had his eyes on him. Let's give it a try. Lu Ming's eyes shone with intense excitement and anticipation. He controlled a strand of forbidden energy and inserted it into the primordial spiritual stone in his sea of consciousness. Buzz. The primordial spiritual stone trembled slightly, and a wave of ripples spread out. Swish. Lu Ming used the Great God Wind technique and continued to rush towards the great art of extreme light. You're courting death. Seeing Lu Ming take the initiative to attack, Aurora's eyes flashed with intense killing intent. He was about to attack Lu Ming. But at this moment, the primordial god stone emitted a wave of energy that enveloped the ultimate Aurora technique. Instantly, the ultimate Aurora technique felt his strength draining away rapidly, and his aura weakened rapidly. How did this happen? What's going on? The great Aurora technique's heart shook violently. He was almost scared to death. He wanted to retreat, but his strength was too weak at the moment. Even his speed was much slower. He couldn't avoid Lu Ming's attack at all. Bang! The mysterious ice staff pressed down, and the greater Aurora technique directly collapsed, turning into a secret technique rune. Lu Ming had only activated a trace of the mysterious ice rod's power and had not used his full strength. In fact, Lu Ming felt that there was no need to use the ice sky staff at all. After all, the fluctuations of the primeval godstone had weakened his opponent to the point of being like a god emperor. Lu Ming could easily kill a divine emperor with a single strike. With a wave of his hand, he put away the secret technique rune formed by the ultimate Aurora technique. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with excitement. The great art of destruction and ultimate Aurora technique were both ranked in the top 100 among the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. They were extremely mysterious and powerful. With the secret technique rune, as long as it was integrated into one's cells, one would be able to reach the beginner level and master these ancient secret techniques. So, the primeval godstone can suppress these ancient secret techniques. No wonder the people from the Sorcerer God Temple couldn't enter the great ancient dojo. Perhaps it has something to do with the primeval godstone. Lu Ming's mind raced as he roughly guessed the reason behind this. However, no one else knew that Lu Ming had the primeval godstone. Everyone who saw Lu Ming killing the great art of destruction and ultimate Aurora technique consecutively was stunned. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? How can this guy be so powerful? Yi was also filled with doubts. He knew very well how powerful the great art of destruction and ultimate Aurora technique were. Even if he used all his strength, he wouldn't be able to kill the great art of destruction and ultimate Aurora technique. At most, he would be able to tie with them. However, Lu Ming could easily kill the great art of destruction and ultimate Aurora technique. Didn't that mean that Lu Ming could easily kill him too? At the thought of this, he felt a chill in his heart and broke out in cold sweat. He couldn't help but retreat quickly to distance himself from Lu Ming. He was afraid that Lu Ming would attack him. At this moment, Lu Ming was overjoyed. His eyes were as bright as stars as he glanced at the other secret techniques. Then, he used the great teleportation technique and appeared among the group of ordinary secret techniques in a flash. The primeval godstone between his eyebrows emitted waves of energy and shrouded the ordinary secret techniques. Immediately, the aura of these ordinary secret techniques weakened rapidly. They were only at the divine emperor realm. Now, they were even more vulnerable. Lu Ming's palm was like a knife as he slashed out violently. Of course, he was targeting the secret techniques of the ancient Sorcerer God Temple and not the great Sorcerer God Temple. Bang bang bang, these ordinary secret techniques were no match for Lu Ming. Their bodies kept exploding and turning into talismans. Lu Ming waved his hand and collected them all. At this moment, Lu Ming had attracted everyone's attention, including those who were fighting in the sky, such as the ancient Sorcerer God Temple's leader. "I'll kill him," shouted a white-haired old man coldly. He took a step forward and dashed towards Lu Ming. His speed was astonishing and his aura was terrifying. Wherever he passed, the empty space became chaotic. How strong! He has the strength of the fourth great supreme god layer. Lu Ming was taken aback. There was a grave expression in his eyes. That was definitely a cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer. His aura was terrifying. He was much stronger than a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer. Lu Ming wasn't sure if he could defeat him. Even though the primeval godstone could suppress cultivators of the third great supreme god layer, could it suppress cultivators of the fourth great supreme god layer? The old man was too fast. He was already 100 li away from Lu Ming. A terrifying attack was already moving towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming couldn't dodge the attack of a cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer. Even if he used the great teleportation technique, it would be useless. Now, he could only risk it. Lu Ming's eyes twinkled. He didn't retreat. Instead, he dashed towards the old man. The cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer was stupefied. He looked worried and worried. But at that moment, there was no way out. Boom! The cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer released his strongest attack. That attack was terrifying. Ordinary cultivators of the third great supreme god layer would have been crushed into pieces in front of that attack. At that moment, the primeval godstone released some qi. When the qi passed by the primeval godstone, it was like a snowflake touching a flame. It melted and disappeared. At the same time, the cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer was also surrounded by the primeval godstone's qi. Chapter 4164. That cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer was also surrounded by the ancient godly stone. His qi started to weaken rapidly. Almost in an instant, he was suppressed to below the Emperor God realm and was only left with the cultivation of the Divine Emperor realm. Oh no! The cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer was terrified. A cold qi rose from his feet to the top of his head and he started to retreat. But how could Lu Ming let him retreat? As soon as Lu Ming saw that the cultivator was suppressed, he immediately attacked. This time, Lu Ming didn't use the mysterious ice rod because he didn't need it. A godly emperor layer cultivator needed the mysterious ice rod? He immediately threw a punch. The cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer gave a horrible shriek as his body exploded and turned into a talisman floating in the air. Following that, Zhang Xian grabbed the secret art talisman and put it away. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. This time, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. His heart was in turmoil, and he found it hard to calm down. That cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer had been killed just like that? There weren't many cultivators of the fourth great supreme god layer in the entire ancient world. For example, the ancient sorcerer shrine only had 8 cultivators of the fourth great supreme god layer. There was also a cultivator of the fifth great supreme god layer, the shrine master of the ancient sorcerer shrine. He was second only to one person and above 10,000 people. Surprisingly, Lu Ming had killed such a cultivator with one punch. Why? What does he have that can suppress us? Terrified voices rang out one after another. They were filled with doubt. However, nobody thought of the ancient godly stone. In fact, those ancient secret techniques didn't know about the ancient godly stone. They all thought that the cultivators of the ancient divine court had comprehended the ancient secret techniques and that they had gained sentience after a long time. They didn't know that they were the masters of the ancient divine court and that they had comprehended the ancient secret techniques from the ancient godly stone. Lu Ming didn't care about them. His silhouette flickered and he rushed towards the crowd. Wherever he passed, the auras of the secret techniques rapidly weakened. However, Lu Ming discovered a strange thing. The living beings with flesh and blood in the ancient world would not be affected at all. Their auras were still as powerful as before. As expected, the ancient godly stone only worked on secret techniques, no matter if they were ordinary or ancient secret techniques. Because the ancient divine court's secret techniques originated from the ancient godly stone. The master of the ancient divine court had comprehended the 3,000 ancient secret techniques from the ancient godly stone. Then, the 3,000 ancient secret techniques had evolved into ordinary secret techniques. After these secret techniques took form, they were naturally countered by the primeval god's stone. The others had also noticed this. And kill him. The voice of the ancient sorcerer temple's hall master reverberated throughout the place. Die. In the territory ruled by the ancient sorcerer divine temple, the living beings of flesh and blood in the ancient world roared and charged toward Lu Ming. Most of those people had the strength of the first great supreme god layer. A few of them had the strength of the second. Level 3 divine court god layer level god realm. The godly god realm god realm. That great god ice rod layer godhead. Bang. A cultivator of the second great supreme god layer was blown to pieces by Lu Ming. Then, the mysterious ice rod pressed down like Mount Tai. 7 or 8 cultivators of the first great supreme god layer were crushed to death. So strong. He's already so strong. How can we fight him? Retreat. The flesh and blood creatures were scared out of their wits. They no longer dared to attack Lu Ming and frantically retreated. They were not Lu Ming's match at all. How could they rush up to court death? Great. These ancient secret skills are all mine. Lu Ming laughed in his heart as he looked at the ancient mystic skills in the sky. Using the greater teleportation technique, he appeared in the middle of a bunch of ancient secret techniques. As soon as the ancient sorcerer temple's ancient secret techniques saw Lu Ming, they roared and charged at Lu Ming, preparing to launch all sorts of attacks. Unfortunately, before they could launch their attacks, the ancient god stone in Lu Ming's mind had already released waves of energy that enveloped them. Then, the auras of the ancient secret techniques around Lu Ming rapidly weakened. Whether it was the great sorcerer temples or the ancient sorcerer temple's secret techniques, they were all suppressed to the great supreme god level. This made all the ancient secret techniques terrified. What's going on? I'm being suppressed. What's going on? Many people shouted. The ancient secret skills of the great sorcerer divine temple were slightly better. They knew that Lu Ming was on their side. However, the ancient secret skills of the ancient sorcerer divine temple were horrified. They wanted to retreat, but it was too late. Lu Ming had already launched his attack. Boom boom boom. Lu Ming's body was covered in a layer of dazzling white light as he continuously punched out with his fists. His fists pierced through the void and headed towards the ancient sorcerer temple's ancient secret techniques. Each of his fists was like a shooting star that pierced through the void. It was extremely powerful. The ancient secret skills of the ancient sorcerer divine temple were suppressed below the level of a god emperor. They could not withstand Lu Ming's attack at all. As the fist force blasted past them, their bodies directly exploded, leaving only a secret skill rune behind. After Lu Ming's attack, there were more than 20 secret technique runes in the air. They shone with various lights and screams of terror could be heard from the secret technique runes. These were the spiritual intelligence of the secret technique runes. Lu Ming reached out his hand and a powerful suction force burst out from his palm. He grabbed the secret technique runes in his hand. However, Lu Ming didn't put the secret technique runes away this time. Instead, he held them in his hand and started to inject forbidden energy into them to destroy the spiritual intelligence of the ancient secret technique runes. Lu Ming was preparing for a rainy day. Although the ancient divine stone could suppress the ancient secret techniques and ordinary secret techniques, it was useless against ordinary beings. He couldn't suppress the core disciples of the heavenly human tribe and the heavenly palace. If Yi Yu attacked him, he wouldn't be able to defeat him. Therefore, he had to become stronger as quickly as possible. If he could break through to the 9th godly emperor layer, he wouldn't need to fear Yi Yu anymore. Even though Lu Ming was refining the spiritual intelligence of the secret technique runes, he didn't stop moving. His silhouette flickered and he reappeared in another place. A group of ancient secret techniques was surrounded by the ancient divine stone's waves of energy. After another wave of attacks, dozens of ancient secret techniques were killed. They were panicking. The strong cultivators of the ancient sorcerer temple were panicking. The ancient sorcerer temple only had 800 secret techniques in total. Now, 40 or 50 of them had been destroyed. How could they accept that? The other ancient secret techniques were panicking. Master, what should we do? What should we do? Someone with ancient secret techniques asked the ancient sorcerer temple master. Nobody dared attack Lu Ming anymore. Even cultivators of the fourth great supreme god layer had been killed instantly. Who would dare attack him? Even though the ancient sorcerer temple's master had the strength of the fifth great supreme god layer, he didn't dare take the risk. Chapter 4165. Damn it! Damn it! The ancient sorcerer shrine's shrine master roared furiously. His heart was filled with killing intent. He really wanted to rush forward and slap Lu Ming to death. However, he did not dare to do so. Lu Ming had killed a cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer in an instant. Even though he could easily kill a cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer, he wasn't confident. He didn't know Lu Ming's limit, and he didn't know what kind of treasure Lu Ming had that could suppress them. Retreat! Retreat! The ancient sorcerer shrine's shrine master said unwillingly. Even though he wasn't willing, he had to retreat. He didn't want to retreat, but he had no choice. Retreating would give the great sorcerer shrine time to absorb the knowledge and imprints left by the strong cultivators of the ancient divine court. It would only be a matter of time before they surpassed the ancient sorcerer shrine. However, if they stayed, they would probably be killed by Lu Ming. If Lu Ming killed them, they would die immediately. Given one of the two choices, he could only choose to retreat. While they were discussing, Lu Ming killed another group of ancient sorcerer shrine's secret skills and obtained a few dozen talismans. The ancient sorcerer shrine's secret skills didn't dare get close to Lu Ming. They fled in all directions. Don't even think about leaving. Lu Ming chased after the ancient sorcerer shrine's experts, killing them as he did so. When the ancient sorcerer shrine's experts were enveloped by the ancient divine stone's energy, they were suppressed and their strength weakened rapidly. Lu Ming could easily kill them. Kill them. Let's attack together. Don't let them escape, shouted the great sorcerer shrine's shrine master. At that moment, he was so excited that his body was trembling. This time, it was really too unexpected. He had never dreamed that Lu Ming would be able to do something like this. At the same time, he was terrified. If Lu Ming could easily kill the ancient sorcerer shrine's secret skills, he could definitely do the same to the great sorcerer shrine's secret skills. He rejoiced, extremely rejoiced that Lu Ming was on their side. Otherwise, he didn't dare to think further. Now, he just needed to seize the opportunity and kill as many people as he could from the ancient sorcerer temple. The warriors of the Grand Sorcerer Temple were in high spirits as they roared and charged towards the warriors of the Ancient Sorcerer Temple. The Ancient Sorcerer Shrine was completely one-sided. Damn it! In the distance, Yiyu roared in his heart, his eyes flashing with killing intent. This brat seems to be in possession of some kind of treasure that can suppress the secret techniques of the Archean world. However, it seems to have no effect on the ordinary creatures of the Archean world. In that case, it should also have no effect on us, Yiyu thought quickly. He was a peerless genius and abnormally intelligent. Although he wasn't very calm right now, he could still see where the problem was. However, he was still a little hesitant to rush up and fight Lu Ming. What if Lu Ming could also suppress him? Wouldn't that be a dead end for him? However, he was unwilling to just watch Lu Ming kill the warriors of the Ancient Sorcerer Temple and obtain their secret technique runes. He didn't know that Lu Ming could directly integrate the secret technique runes into his cells, but he knew that every secret technique rune represented a secret technique of the Archean world. The more Lu Ming obtained, the more unhappy he was. He had to stop him. Turning his gaze, Yiyu already had an idea. You guys, go and test Mu Yun's strength. Yiyu looked at the core disciples of the big shots of the Heavenly Palace. Let's go. The core disciples of the Heavenly Palace's core disciples changed their expressions and became a little ugly. They were not fools. Naturally, they knew what Yiyu was thinking. She wanted them to test the waters and see if Lu Ming could suppress them. If Lu Ming could suppress them, then Yiyu didn't need to go up and just ran away. If Lu Ming couldn't suppress them, then Yiyu would have to take action. This was pushing the danger to them, so he naturally didn't want to. What? Do I have to say it again? Yi Yu's voice was cold, and his cold eyes swept across the core disciples of the Heavenly Palace. This made the core disciples of the Heavenly Palace's core disciples even more uncomfortable. Although they were core disciples of the Heavenly Palace's core disciples, when they walked out of the Heavenly Palace and faced the universe's tribes, they were absolutely superior. Many of the tribe leaders had to be respectful to them. However, they weren't from the Heavenly Human tribe, and their status was still very far from the real Heavenly Human tribe. Not to mention compared to Yi Yu, who was a top genius even in the Heavenly Human tribe. If Yi Yu was unhappy with them and used some tricks behind their backs, they would be unable to move an inch in the Heavenly Palace and lose their great future. Since Master Yi Yu has given us the order, how could we not obey? Said one of the young men with a smile. His battle armor shone and a layer of light enveloped him. He immediately took out a great weapon and rushed towards Lu Ming. I'll attack too. Me too. Seeing that someone was going to attack, the other core disciples of the Heavenly Palace also stepped forward. They activated their battle armor and rushed towards Lu Ming with all kinds of great weapons in their hands. Their speed was very fast. Like streams of flowing light, they cut through the void and approached Lu Ming rapidly. They hadn't arrived yet, but many powerful attacks were already heading towards Lu Ming. These people were very strong, and some of them were even as talented as the battle god Yuanwen. They could cross 5 levels to fight. Even cultivators of the second great supreme god layer couldn't defeat them when they used their great weapons. So many people were attacking, and their attacks were very powerful, so Lu Ming had to be careful. He took out the Zephyr bead and used all his strength to draw out the energy inside. A powerful gust of wind rushed out and turned into a gust of wind barrier, blocking in front of him. Boom boom boom. One attack after another bombarded the gale barrier. The gale barrier shook violently and finally exploded with a loud bang. Lu Ming used the Zephyr bead to block those people's attacks while he continued killing the ancient sorcerer shrine's secret skills. In such a short time, he had already killed more than 100 ancient sorcerer shrine's secret skills. On top of that, he had already destroyed more than 20 talismans. Fuse. Lu Ming's mind stirred and more than 20 secret skill runes were integrated into more than 20 different cells by Lu Ming. In a flash, Lu Ming sensed that he had already mastered more than 20 ancient sorcerer shrine's secret skills, even though he was just a beginner. But he could already use some of the mysteries of the ancient sorcerer shrine's secret skills. At the same time, pure energy kept flowing out of the 20 ancient sorcerer shrine cells and into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming sensed that his cultivation level was rapidly increasing. He was getting closer to the 9th godly emperor layer. Surround him. The core disciples of the Heavenly Palace formed an arc and charged toward Lu Ming. They continued to attack Lu Ming with all kinds of attacks, blocking Lu Ming's path to continue hunting for the primordial mystic skills. Chapter 4166. Don't think that I'm afraid of you. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with anger. He turned around and rushed towards the core disciples of the Heavenly Palace. As he rushed out, the mysterious ice staff in his hand rapidly enlarged and swept out. The mysterious ice staff vibrated and turned into dozens of staff shadows, attacking the dozens of core disciples of the Heavenly Palace. A violent explosion sounded. Lu Ming's attack collided with the attacks of the core disciples of the Heavenly Palace. Although the core disciples of the Heavenly Palace were strong, they were still no match for Lu Ming. Their attacks were directly defeated. The staff shadows bombarded their bodies, and the dozens of core disciples of the Heavenly Palace were blown away like sandbags. If it weren't for their battle suits, they would have been seriously injured, if not killed. After sending the dozens of core disciples of the Heavenly Palace flying, Lu Ming didn't stop attacking. The mysterious ice staff continued to sweep out. Dozens of staff shadows appeared and attacked the core disciples of the Heavenly Palace. None of the core disciples of the Heavenly Palace could compete with Lu Ming. Even the strongest of them was no match for Lu Ming. They were blown away one after another. In the distance, Yi Yu saw this scene and was happy instead of shocked. As expected, Lu Ming could only suppress the secret skills of the archaic world. He couldn't suppress the living beings of flesh and blood, nor could he suppress them. That made things easier. He wouldn't be suppressed. His combat strength was stronger than Lu Ming's, so he could easily take care of Lu Ming. Muyan, today, I'll kill you. Yi Yu roared and rushed towards Lu Ming with the silver spear in his hand. The silver spear was like a silver lightning, piercing through the void. In an instant, it was close to Lu Ming. The silver spear let out a terrifying whistling sound and aimed at Lu Ming's forehead. Its power was extremely terrifying. Lu Ming's face turned serious, and he attacked with the mysterious ice staff. Clang. When the mysterious ice rod and the silver spear collided, a violent shockwave erupted. Immediately after, the mysterious ice rod violently vibrated. Lu Ming's body violently shook, and he was sent flying by the violent power of the silver spear. Brat, let's see how arrogant you can be. Seeing that he had sent Lu Ming flying with just one move, Yi Yu's courage was boosted. His killing intent exploded. The powerful and mysterious energy in his body continuously poured into the silver spear, causing the silver spear to emit a dazzling light, like a silver sun. Then, this silver sun turned into a sharp edge and pierced towards Lu Ming. In the blink of an eye, they had traversed several hundred miles of space. This attack was even stronger than the previous one. Clearly, the silver spear in Yi Yu's hand was no small matter. It was most likely of a very high grade. Although these top prodigies would usually have a powerful killing weapon as their trump card, they would not be able to use it. However, there were also differences in strength between these weapons. The silver spear in Yi Yu's hand was one of the best weapons of mass destruction. Even if it was not as good as the mysterious ice rod, it was not far off. I am still not a match for Yi Yu. I can only avoid him for the time being. Lu Ming made his decision. His first-class celestial soldier armor had been drained of energy by the Great Destruction art and Great Aurora art. Without the first-class celestial soldier armor, Lu Ming's own defense could not be guaranteed. Moreover, after continuously activating the mysterious ice rod, Lu Ming had consumed a lot of energy. If they continued to fight with Yi Yu, it would be very disadvantageous for them. Greater Shift Art. Lu Ming immediately used the Greater Shift Art, and his body disappeared from the spot. The next moment he appeared thousands of miles away, in the middle of a pile of ancient secret skills. In his sea of consciousness, the primordial god stone emitted waves of energy, and the aura of these ancient secret skills rapidly weakened. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming continuously punched and killed these ancient secret skills. Lu Ming obtained more than a dozen secret skill runes. Damn it! Yi Yu shouted. His body was shrouded in a layer of golden light. In a flash, he appeared not far away from Lu Ming, as if he had teleported. The silver spear continued to stab at Lu Ming. So fast. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Yi Yu's speed was also very fast. Although it was not a shift, it was not much slower than his Greater Shift Art. Lu Ming did not hesitate and continued to use the Greater Shift Art to dodge. At the same time, he continued to erase the spiritual intelligence of the secret skill runes to increase his cultivation base. All of you, spread out and seal the void. Don't let him use the Greater Shift Art. Yi Yu shouted. His voice reached the ears of the core disciples of the ancient sorcerer shrine and the heavenly palace, as well as the other sky prides of the heavenly human tribe. That's right. Let's move. Quick! The ancient secret skills of the ancient sorcerer shrine spread out and emitted violent waves. They were using their powerful energy to seal the void. Yi would not be suppressed. Instead, he could suppress Lu Ming. This gave the people of the ancient sorcerer shrine hope. They stopped running away and cooperated with Yi Yu. At the same time, the core disciples of the heavenly palace and the sky prides of the heavenly human tribe all joined in the fight. With so many experts making a move, the entire sky became as sticky as a paste. It was very difficult for Lu Ming to cast the transference skill as he could not break the space. However, the people of the Great Sorcerer Shrine would not let them succeed. Don't let them succeed. Break them up. The Grand Sorcerer Shrine Master shouted. He led the experts of the Grand Sorcerer Shrine and charged toward the people of the Ancient Sorcerer Shrine. They wanted to break the seal that the Ancient Sorcerer Shrine had on Lu Ming so that Lu Ming could move freely. Lu Ming was the key to their victory. They could not let anything happen to Lu Ming. If Lu Ming joined in the fight, the outcome would be unpredictable. Even if they won, they would have to pay a heavy price. Stop them. This is our last chance. If we don't stop them, we will all die. Fight to the death. The experts of the ancient sorcerer shrine roared. Their eyes were bloodshot. Some of them even started to burn their origin energy to increase their combat strength to the maximum. Fight to the death, regardless of the consequences. The people of the ancient sorcerer shrine knew that this was their last chance. If they did not seize the opportunity, they would be killed when the Grand Sorcerer Shrine's strength increased. They had to seize the opportunity to seal off Lu Ming. Once Yi Yu killed Lu Ming, they would have a chance to turn the tables. After Yi Yu killed Lu Ming, they would be able to obtain the treasure that Lu Ming had that could suppress them. Then, they could use it to suppress the people of the Grand Sorcerer Shrine. That would be a great victory for them, and all their losses would be worth it. At the thought of this, the people of the ancient sorcerer shrine went crazy. They attacked with all their might. Although the ancient sorcerer shrine had fewer people than the Grand Sorcerer Shrine and they had to divert their attention to seal off the space, they still managed to hold off the people of the Grand Sorcerer Shrine. Kill! Yi Yu roared. His golden hair flew in the wind. He held a silver spear in his hand and charged toward Lu Ming like an invincible god of war. Lu Ming could not use the teleportation skill. He was slower than Yi Yu in terms of speed and could not escape. Chapter 4167. Lu Ming could not escape, so he could only take the blow head-on. Buzz. The obsidian staff vibrated and emitted a terrifying chill. It was like a frozen mountain as it smashed towards Yi Yu. At the same time, the gale pearl continued to draw out strong winds, turning them into wind blades that slashed towards Yi Yu. Even so, Lu Ming was no match for Yi Yu. The wind blades were defeated, and the obsidian staff vibrated. Lu Ming retreated quickly. His body was hit by the remaining force, and there were wounds on his body that were bleeding profusely. However, before Lu Ming could stabilize himself, Yi Yu's attack came again. This time, the silver spear turned into hundreds of spear shadows and pierced towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming tried his best to block it, but he could not block it completely. His body was pierced by a few spear shadows. Lu Ming's body flew out and he coughed up blood. A hole had appeared in his body, connecting the front and back of his body. Lu Ming kept coughing up blood. He was hit directly, but it still caused him a lot of injuries. Fortunately, Lu Ming had a taboo body. There were no vital points on his body. Although there were a few holes, it did not affect his combat strength. Great! The experts of the ancient sorcerer temple were overjoyed when they saw this. As long as Yi Yu killed Lu Ming, the scales of victory would tip towards them. Oh no! The people of the great sorcerer temple were the opposite. They could not help but feel anxious and increased their attacks. The experts from both sides fought fiercely. It was extremely tragic, and people were constantly being killed. Die! Seeing Lu Ming severely injured, Yi Yu's eyes became even more ferocious. His killing intent intensified, and his attacks became even more violent. Soon continue to destroy it. In the face of such a situation, Lu Ming's eyes were still calm. The reason why it was so one-sided when he faced Yi Yu was that he had used a portion of his taboo power to destroy the intelligence in the secret skill rune. Otherwise, he would not have been defeated so quickly. He could have resisted for a while longer. However, even so, Lu Ming did not plan to stop destroying the secret skill rune's intelligence, because this was the key to turning defeat into victory. After being sent flying, Lu Ming's figure flashed rapidly, flying backward. Lu Ming, let me help you, Qiuqiu's anxious voice came from his wrist. Don't move, Qiuqiu. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Qiuqiu. Qiuqiu had the strength of the top of the 9th godly emperor layer. He hadn't broken through to the great supreme god layer. Even if Qiuqiu helped, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Lu Ming could not let Qiuqiu take any risks. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes lit up again. This was because more than 20 runes had been obliterated by Lu Ming. Previously, Lu Ming had erased most of the talismans of the first great supreme god layer. The lower the cultivation level, the easier it was to erase the talismans. Only a few had the strength of the second Great Supreme God layer. But this time, there was a talisman of the third Great Supreme God layer. It was the Great Aurora Technique. Lu Ming needed to use the Great Aurora Technique. Once the intelligence in the secret skill runes was obliterated, Lu Ming immediately integrated these secret skill runes into his cells. In an instant, Lu Ming grasped those skills. At the same time, a powerful strength emerged and rapidly increased Lu Ming's cultivation level. Soon, I'll break through to the top of the 8th Godly Emperor layer. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. At this point, he could start breaking through to the 9th Godly Emperor layer. At that moment, Yi Yu's voice was filled with murder. His silhouette flickered as he moved towards Lu Ming. Over 100 spear shadows moved towards Lu Ming. It covered a large area and Lu Ming had nowhere to retreat. However, at this moment, Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. "Great Aurora Technique," whispered Lu Ming. A moment later, his body changed drastically. His flesh and blood turned into a beam of light. A beam of light. Swish. With a flash of the aurora, Lu Ming's figure appeared 100 miles away, dodging Yi Yu's attack. The hundreds of spear shadows that Yi Yu thrust out pierced the air. How is that possible? Yi Yu's eyes were wide open as if he had seen a ghost. He was staring at Lu Ming. Everyone who saw this scene in the surroundings felt the same way. The Great Aurora Technique. How did Lu Ming use the Great Aurora Technique? They were sure that Lu Ming had used the Great Aurora Technique to dodge Yi Yu's attack. How did Lu Ming suddenly know how to use the Great Aurora Technique? Had he just learned it? But how was that possible? This was an ancient secret technique. It was extremely difficult to cultivate. Furthermore, the Aurora art was ranked in the top 100 among the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. It was extremely mysterious and the difficulty of cultivating it was also extremely high. How could he learn it in such a short time? Could it be that Lu Ming had already mastered the Great Aurora Technique? But if Lu Ming had already mastered the Great Aurora Technique, why didn't he use it before? Why did he wait until now to use it in the face of such a crisis? It didn't make sense. In short, these people were dumbfounded. Yi Yu was the first to react. He roared, "Mu Yun, stop. I order you, idiot!" Lu Ming's disdainful voice came out. He used the Great Aurora Technique and appeared in another area in a flash, distancing himself from Yi Yu. Although the Great Aurora Technique couldn't directly move through the void like the Great Teleportation Technique and ignore the obstruction of physical objects, the Great Aurora Technique was extremely fast in short-distance movement. It was like a real beam of light. It was quite similar to Yi Yu's movement technique. Despicable scum, Yi Yu gritted his teeth. He couldn't wait to skin Lu Ming and pull out the tendons of such a despicable person. Yes, in his eyes, Lu Ming was incomparably despicable. He was their slave. Such a person dared to contradict him time and time again, and even dared to attack him. It was simply unforgivable. He unleashed all his strength and rushed toward Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming used the Great Aurora Technique to dodge, and his speed wasn't inferior to his. He couldn't catch up with Lu Ming at all for a moment. Lu Ming dodged while taking out a part of the secret skill runes to obliterate the spiritual intelligence within. Both sides were in a stalemate. The experts of the Great Sorcerer Temple attacked crazily, while the experts of the Ancient Sorcerer Temple defended desperately. In their eyes, what they needed to do now was to buy time for Yi Yu. Hold on, we must hold on. That kid is in a passive position. If this continues, he will definitely be killed by young Master Yi Yu. That's right. What we need to do is to buy time for young Master Yi Yu and not be disturbed. You must hold on. The experts of the Ancient Sorcerer Temple roared and defended desperately. In this way, the battle between both sides became even more tragic. The number of experts who died was also increasing rapidly. In the sky, ancient secret skills were shattered from time to time, turning into secret skill runes and floating in the air. In the blink of an eye, a few minutes had passed. Done. Lu Ming was elated. He had destroyed the spiritual intelligence of another batch of ancient mystic skill runes. Moreover, in this batch of secret skill runes, there were 2 third-level Emperor God secret skill runes. This time, I will definitely be able to break through. Lu Ming was determined. Chapter 4168. After dodging for a while, Lu Ming finally destroyed more than 20 talismans. Among them, there were 2 talismans of the 3rd Great Supreme God layer. He didn't hesitate to fuse those talismans with his cells. Boom! Immediately, those cells erupted like volcanoes. Pure and powerful energy surged into Lu Ming's body, penetrating into each of his cells and strengthening the forbidden strength in them. Lu Ming's taboo power reached saturation all of a sudden. "Break through!" shouted Lu Ming. He started breaking through to the 9th godly emperor layer. His body was shaking violently. Every cell in his body was shaking. His potential was being stimulated unceasingly. His aura continued to climb, and when it reached a limit, it suddenly soared. He had broken through. Lu Ming had finally broken through to the 9th godly emperor layer with the help of 60 talismans. It was all thanks to the few 3rd stage the Arch-God secret skill runes. The energy contained in them was too pure and powerful. That was why Lu Ming had a breakthrough in one go. How is that possible? Yi Yu, who was chasing after Lu Ming, could not help but widen his eyes in disbelief. Lu Ming had broken through while fighting against him. How was that possible? Could it be that Lu Ming kept dodging and retreating just now because he wanted to buy time for a breakthrough? "You want to die? I won't let that happen in front of me," shouted Yu Yu furiously. His handsome face looked even more ferocious. Lu Ming had broken through while fighting against him. That was a slap to his face. It was a great humiliation for him. Wasn't it obvious that Lin Fan was stepping on him? Who was he? He was a peerless genius of the heavenly human clan. A despicable human dared to step on him? He couldn't stand it. His eyes were red. He dashed toward Lu Ming with all his might, hollering, "Bastard, don't run if you have the guts. Fight me. If you want to fight, I'll fulfill your wish." This time, Lu Ming stopped and put away the Gale Pearl. Holding the obsidian staff in one hand, he stood in the air and looked coldly at Yi Yu. He had already broken through to the 9th godly emperor layer. He was as strong as Yi Yu. At the same level, Lu Ming wasn't afraid of anyone. So what if he was a peerless monster of the heavenly human tribe? So what if you have a breakthrough? You'll still die. Kill. Yi Yu let out a long roar. The silver spear emitted a dazzling radiance and pierced towards Lu Ming. The speed was so fast that it was unbelievable. An ordinary person would have been pierced through by the spear before they could even react. However, Lu Ming was able to clearly capture the trajectory of the long spear. Forbidden energy poured into the mysterious ice staff, and using the staff as a spear, he stabbed out. Clang. When the mysterious ice rod and the silver spear collided, an earth-shattering explosion erupted. Waves of terrifying energy swept out in all directions. Wherever it passed, the space would constantly explode. The 2 weapons shook violently. Then, Lu Ming and Yi Yu's bodies shook violently at the same time and they were both pushed back. This time, the fight had ended in a draw. Damn it! Yi Yu roared in his heart, glaring at Lu Ming. He blocked it. It's a draw. The people around them were also astonished. However, they were astonished in a completely different way. The people of the ancient sorcerer shrine were astonished and terrified. Lu Ming had broken through to the 9th godly emperor layer and was now able to compete with Yi Yu. That way, they had lost the advantage that they had gained with great difficulty. Previously, Lu Ming had killed hundreds of ancient sorcerer shrine cultivators. In terms of the number of ancient sorcerer shrine cultivators, they were already behind the great sorcerer shrine. If Lu Ming and Yi Yu had a draw, the situation would be very disadvantageous for them. On the other hand, the Grand Magus God Temple was surprised and delighted at the same time. Lu Ming had broken through to the 9th godly emperor layer and blocked Yi Yu's attack. That way, they had the upper hand. Everyone, don't rush to attack. Slow down. The great sorcerer shrine ordered. Now that they had the upper hand, they did not need to rush to fight with the people of the ancient sorcerer shrine. They only needed to slow down and use their advantage in numbers. Some of them could join forces to deal with the people of the ancient sorcerer shrine. The longer the fight, the more obvious their advantage would be. It could be said that Lu Ming's breakthrough had caused a fundamental reversal of the situation between the two parties. "I don't believe it." Yi Yu roared and continued to attack Lu Ming with the silver spear in his hand. Lu Ming was not afraid at all and charged forward with the obsidian staff in his hand. Clang, clang. The two of them engaged in an intense battle. They continued to attack each other at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows. After dozens of blows, there was still no clear winner. However, after 30 blows, Lu Ming began to gain the upper hand. Lu Ming had just broken through to the 9th godly emperor layer, but as the battle continued, Lu Ming's potential was constantly stimulated and turned into forbidden energy. Lu Ming's cultivation level was stabilized and his combat strength was slowly increasing. After the breakthrough, he could use the power with ease. Also, the level of the obsidian staff was definitely higher than the silver spear in his opponent's hand. As Lu Ming's cultivation level was stabilized, the power of the obsidian staff became stronger and stronger. It began to suppress the silver spear. In the blink of an eye, another 20 blows had been exchanged. Clang! Another earth-shattering roar sounded and the two of them retreated. This time, Lu Ming only took 3 steps back, while Yu took 7 steps back. "No, impossible, impossible!" Yi Yu roared and his golden hair fluttered in the wind. He seemed to be unable to accept the result. He was no match for Lu Ming when they were at the same level. Who was he? He was from the Heavenly Human clan. On the other hand, Lu Ming was merely a human, a despicable human. From the name, it was obvious that the Heavenly Human clan had the word Tion in front of it. It meant that they were suppressing the human clan. But now, he, a peerless genius of the Heavenly Human clan, was being suppressed by a human of the same level. He was proud and arrogant, so he couldn't accept it. The people of the ancient sorcerer shrine were also feeling depressed. The situation was worse than they had expected. If Yi Yu was defeated by Lu Ming, the ancient sorcerer shrine would be destroyed. Because Lu Ming had a treasure that could suppress them. Even though there were cultivators of the 4th or 5th great supreme god layer among them, under normal circumstances, they could kill Lu Ming with a single slap. However, they would be suppressed. Once they were suppressed, they would be slapped to death by Lu Ming. "It's over, it's over." The strong cultivators of the ancient sorcerer shrine were terrified. Did God want them to die? Of course, the people of the great sorcerer shrine were the opposite. They were extremely happy that they had chosen to cooperate with Lu Ming. Nothing is impossible. In my opinion, man can conquer nature. The celestial race is not invincible, said Lu Ming coldly. His chi became even stronger. He took a step forward and moved towards Yi Yu. Chapter 4169. Previously, Yi Yu was the one who initiated the attack. Now, Lu Ming was the one who initiated the attack. Boom! Lu Ming held the Bingxian staff with both hands and shouted. The Bingxian staff grew to the size of a mountain and smashed toward Yi Yu. The power it exuded was even more shocking. Yi Yu roared and stabbed the silver spear with all his might. When it collided with the Bingxian staff, there was a loud explosion. However, Yi Yu's body was pushed back. A terrifying chill flowed along the silver spear and spread toward his body as if it was going to freeze his body. Lu Ming retreated even less this time. Weapon, it's his weapon. The weapon in his hand is of a higher grade than mine. That's why he can suppress me. Yi Yu thought quickly and calmed himself down. He believed that the reason why Lu Ming was stronger than him was because of the Bingxian staff. If I don't have a weapon and just rely on my own combat strength, I will definitely be stronger than him. Then, Yi Yu's eyes flashed with wisdom. A jade talisman appeared in his hand. The Forbidden Weapon Area Seal. Lu Ming knew at a glance that it was the Forbidden Weapon Area Seal. Bang! Yi Yu did not hesitate and crushed the Forbidden Weapon Area Seal. All of a sudden, a mysterious wave was emitted rapidly. It was so fast that Lu Ming and Yi Yu were shrouded in it all of a sudden. Lu Ming felt that he had lost contact with the Bingxian staff when he was enveloped by this mysterious power. The Bingxian staff's aura also weakened rapidly. It became dull and lifeless. Lu Ming's connection with the Bingxian staff was cut off. At the same time, Yu himself was also cut off by the Forbidden Weapon Area seal. He lost contact with the silver spear in his hand. Not only that, but the light of his battle suit also dimmed. Under the Forbidden Weapon Area seal, all divine weapons could not be used, including the battle suit. Yu put away the silver spear and his body was shrouded in a strange layer. This kind of power was called the power of heaven. It was a very powerful power. Even among the heavenly human tribe, only a few people could master it. I didn't expect that you could force me to use the Forbidden Weapon Area seal. I will give you a dignified death, Yu said coldly. When his eyes opened and closed, a terrifying light burst forth. He had mixed feelings. He never expected that there would be a day when he would be forced to use the Forbidden Armament Domain Runic Seal. Normally, it would be others who would use the Forbidden Armament Domain Runic Seal on him. Although he had a few Forbidden Armament Domain runes on him, they were only for emergencies. In truth, he did not think that he would be able to use them. He didn't expect that he would have to use the Forbidden Weapon Domain Seal against a mere Lu Ming. Very well, then let's fight with our true abilities. Lu Ming's expression did not change at all. Without any external help, could Yu defeat him by himself? He could only disappoint the other party. Lu Ming put away the Ice Mystic Staff and continued to charge toward Yu. The battle formula was activated, and the secret techniques in his cells exploded along with the forbidden power. Lu Ming's body was covered by a layer of snow-white light, emitting terrifying fluctuations. Boom! Lu Ming punched out, and a fist energy blasted towards Yu. This fist energy seemed simple, but it actually contained the power of many secret techniques. Not to mention the ordinary secret techniques, just the archaic secret techniques alone contained many different kinds. Heaven's killing fist kill. Yu roared and formed a fist seal. His hands trembled a few times before he punched out. This punch was extremely terrifying, and it directly smashed through the void. Boom! The two fists heavily smashed together, and a violent tremor erupted between heaven and earth. Both of their bodies trembled at the same time, and they staggered for a moment. But in an instant, both of them steadied themselves and charged at each other again. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them engaged in an intense battle, and their attacks were like a storm, pouring towards each other. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. To be honest, Yu's combat strength was really terrifying. In a battle of the same level, his combat strength was actually not much weaker than Lu Ming's. Suddenly, Lu Ming deliberately showed an opening. Die! Yu seized the opportunity and blasted out a blow. It was like a bolt of lightning and it hit Lu Ming. However, a layer of light appeared on Lu Ming's body. This was not the defense of the armor, but one of the 3,000 archaic secret techniques, the Great Defense Technique. The defensive power of the Great Defense Technique was very shocking. Although it was hit, most of the power was blocked. Lu Ming's body trembled, and a mouthful of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. However, Lu Ming's attacks did not stop at all. The moment he was hit, he also made a move. This attack also hit Yu. Bam! Yu's body flew out like a sandbag, and a large part of his chest caved in. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, and his face was pale. Obviously, his defensive power was not as strong as Lu Ming's. It seems that true ability is not enough. Lu Ming's indifferent voice was heard. You're courting death, divine punishment. Yu howled madly. He lifted his hands up as if he was lifting an extremely heavy object. Then, from his palms, bolts of lightning shot out. Yes, it was lightning. However, this kind of lightning was completely different from the lightning that Lu Ming had encountered before. This kind of lightning was as white as snow, and it was like a holy light. However, there was a terrifying aura that was emitted. This is divine punishment. Young Master Yu has cultivated a trace of divine punishment. In the distance, a young man from the heavenly human tribe exclaimed, "It's really divine punishment, one of the 4 most powerful forces of our tribe. It's the evolved version of the power of heaven. Young Master Yi Yu is indeed a peerless genius of our tribe. With the power of divine punishment, he can definitely kill Mu Yun. The other members of the heavenly human tribe exclaimed in shock. Obviously, this kind of power of divine punishment had also shocked the heavenly human tribe. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly, and there was a hint of seriousness in them. His instincts told him that the power of the lightning made him feel threatened. "It's your honor to die under my divine punishment. Go to hell." Yi Yu roared. He pressed his palms together, and the terrifying lightning blasted towards Lu Ming at an extremely fast speed. Great defensive technique, great boulder technique, great firmness technique, great divine pagoda technique. Lu Ming shouted softly. He activated his power to the extreme and used several kinds of ancient secret skills consecutively. Among them, only the great defensive technique was exchanged by Lu Ming from the Heavenly Palace. In addition, he had cultivated it to the greater success stage in the Creation Pagoda. The other ancient secret techniques were previously integrated into his cells. They had not reached the greater success stage and were only at the beginner stage. However, these ancient secret techniques were all used to increase one's defensive power. With so many of them added together, their defensive power was extremely shocking. Boom! While Lu Ming increased his defensive power, he also increased his offensive power to the extreme. He threw out a punch. The force of the punch collided with Yi Yu's divine punishment. Sizzle! The terrifying force swept out in all directions, and traces of the power of lightning rushed to both sides. Chapter 4170. Sizzle, 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 tiny bolts of lightning shot out in all directions, covering a very long distance. Oh no, retreat! The young geniuses of the heavenly human clan and the core disciples of the heavenly palace were terrified and retreated. However, many strong cultivators of the ancient sorcerer shrine couldn't dodge in time and were hit by the tiny bolts of lightning. Those cultivators of the first great supreme god layer immediately exploded and turned into talismans. Even the cultivators of the second great supreme god layer were shaken and kept retreating. Many people were astonished. Their attacks were too terrifying. They hadn't used any powerful weapons. They had relied on their own strength to push back cultivators of the second great supreme god layer. That was too terrifying. Both of them were only cultivators of the ninth godly emperor layer. Energy exploded in all directions. Then, the two figures were forced to retreat. It was Lu Ming and Yi Yu. Phew, phew. After Yi Yu retreated, his face was pale and he gasped for breath. He was covered in cold sweat and his chi was weak. It was obvious that the divine punishment had consumed too much of his strength. On the other side, Lu Ming looked even more miserable. There were many wounds on his body, as if he had been torn apart by some wild beast. Black smoke kept coming out of his wounds and blood kept flowing out. Lu Ming was still injured by the earlier move. He was injured by the power of the heavenly punishment. However, it didn't affect Lu Ming's fighting strength too much. He hadn't used as much strength as Yi Yu. Yi Yu's eyes were wide open and he stared at Lu Ming. He couldn't believe it. Initially, he thought that even if Lu Ming did not die, he would be seriously injured by his heavenly punishment. However, Lu Ming had only been slightly injured. He couldn't accept it. "Is that your strongest attack?" "It's not that strong." "Now it's my turn," Lu Ming said. Then Lu Ming moved. He waved his hand and a huge demon sword appeared. It was the great demon sword technique. At the same time, a godly tower appeared. It was the great godly tower technique. One after another, Lu Ming executed various ancient secret techniques. Great divine wind technique, great shattering technique, great destruction technique, great aurora technique, all sorts of ancient secret skills, boosted by the taboo power, exploded with shocking power, crushing toward Yi Yu. Different kinds of attacks came from different directions, completely enveloping Yu Yi, making it difficult for him to dodge. Yi Yu could only do his best to resist. He erupted with all his strength and launched a counterattack. Unfortunately, with his current strength, it was difficult for him to execute the heavenly tribulation again. He could only block it with normal attacks. The sky was filled with multicolored light, enveloping the two figures within. Only a series of violent rumbles could be heard. After dozens of violent explosions, a figure flew out and crashed into the distance. That figure was Yiyu. He had used up too much of his strength when he used the power of heavenly punishment. Now that he had been fighting Lu Ming for so long, his strength was no longer sufficient. He could no longer block Lu Ming. Lu Ming followed closely behind, rushing towards Yiyu. Not good, Yiyu is going to lose. In the direction where Yiyu flew, the faces of the people from the ancient sorcerer shrine changed drastically. They could not stay any longer and fled in all directions. Lu Ming was extremely fast. In just a few steps, he had caught up with Yiyu and punched out continuously. Boom, 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 streaks of fist energy smashed toward Yiyu like meteors. Yiyu roared and resisted with all his strength. However, in his current state, he could not resist at all. A few streaks of fist energy landed on his body, causing him to spit out large mouthfuls of blood and several large holes to appear on his body. His aura became even weaker. Young Master Yiyu, Mu Yun, how dare you? Stop. You're courting death. The other sky prides of the heavenly human tribe roared and rushed toward Lu Ming in a frenzy. They held powerful weapons in their hands, and the battle suits on their bodies emitted dazzling multicolored light. However, as soon as they rushed into the Forbidden Army area, the multicolored light on their battle suits immediately dimmed, and the aura of the weapons in their hands also quickly weakened. Their weapons and battle suits were suppressed by the Forbidden Army area. Humph, get out of my way. Lu Ming snorted and threw out dozens of punches in a row. Dozens of streaks of fist energy pierced through the void and blasted toward these people. These people did not have battle suits or powerful weapons. They were at the same level as Lu Ming, and their combat power was too weak. The streaks of fist energy crushed through, and the dozens of figures were like sandbags, retreating rapidly. They were all severely injured and coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. In the distance, the first-class heavenly soldiers were dumbfounded. These people were either geniuses of the heavenly human tribe or core disciples of the heavenly palace. Each of them was at least equivalent to a candidate for the universe prodigy list. However, they were completely vulnerable in front of Lu Ming. Dozens of them joined forces, but they were all injured and sent flying by Lu Ming in one move. However, Lu Ming sent these sky prides flying with one move, which delayed some time. Yiyu took advantage of this opportunity and frantically retreated, trying to escape. Trying to escape? Lu Ming's eyes flashed with cold light, and his body was filled with dazzling multicolored light. Great Aurora technique. His entire body seemed to have turned into an aurora, flashing and disappearing. The next moment he had caught up with Yiyu and slashed him like a blade. With a scream, Yiyu's body was cut in two and flew backward. Then, a shocking scene occurred. Yiyu's body, which had been cut in two, turned into multicolored light and dissipated, disappearing from the spot. Then, in the void tens of thousands of miles away, Yiyu reappeared, looking at Lu Ming with a pale face. Mu Yun, I will remember what happened today. When I get out, I will make sure you die miserably. Yiyu gritted his teeth and squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth, full of cold, murderous intent. He had a lingering fear, and his back was drenched in cold sweat. This time, if he did not have a trump card, he would have been in danger just now. When had he ever encountered such danger? That feeling was too terrifying. This terrifying feeling was brought to him by a human scum. It was unforgivable. A substitute treasure? Lu Ming frowned. His move just now was very powerful. If he had been hit by it, even if Yiyu did not die, he would have been severely injured. However, just now Yiyu had clearly diverted his attack to another object. Lu Ming had encountered similar objects before, such as the substitute puppets of the Wu people. However, they were much more advanced. At that moment, it was too late for Lu Ming to pursue. After Yiyu said that, he increased his speed to the maximum and fled into the distance. Chapter 4171. Lu Ming did not chase after him. After all, he was in the heavenly palace. If he really killed a genius of the heavenly human tribe, he would not be able to explain himself. Even if he wanted to chase after Yiyu, he would not be able to catch up with him. Lu Ming turned his attention to the ancient secret skills of the Sorcerer Shrine. These were his true goals. Seeing that Yi Yu and the others had been defeated, the ancient secret skills of the Sorcerer Shrine panicked and scattered. The elites of the Great Sorcerer Shrine chased after them. "Stop them. Let me handle them." Lu Ming sent a message to the Great Sorcerer Shrine Master. The Great Sorcerer Shrine Master immediately ordered the elites under his command to stop the ancient Sorcerer Shrine's people. He only sought to stop the enemy, not to kill them. This way it would be much easier. Moreover, the ancient Sorcerer Shrine's people had scattered into groups. It would be easier to stop them. The elites of the Great Sorcerer Shrine also scattered and chased after the ancient Sorcerer Shrine's elites. They stopped the ancient secret skills of the ancient Sorcerer Shrine in groups. As for Lu Ming, he had already made his move. He cast the transference skill and disappeared in a flash. When he appeared again, he was already in the middle of more than 10 ancient Sorcerer Divine Temple mystic skills. In his mind, the ancient Holy Stone emitted a strange energy wave. The ancient secret skills aura immediately weakened. "Oh no! Split up and run." The dozen or so ancient secret technique cultivators roared and tried to escape in different directions. However, it was too late. Lu Ming punched with both fists and more than 10 fist forces penetrated them. These more than 10 primordial secret skills collapsed one after another, turning into secret skill runes. Horrified cries could be heard from the secret skill runes. Lu Ming waved his hand and collected the secret skill talismans. Then, Lu Ming looked in a direction. There were some powerful cultivators moving quickly in that direction. The ancient Sorcerer Shrine Master and a fourth Great God Realm cultivator. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. In that direction, there were 8 of the strongest fighters from the ancient Sorcerer Temple. One of them was the leader of the ancient Sorcerer Shrine. The other 7 were all cultivators of the 7th Great Supreme God Layer. They were the strongest cultivators of the ancient Sorcerer Shrine. They joined forces and attacked together. Their speed was astonishing. Behind them, the Great Sorcerer Shrine's Shrine Master led a group of the Great Sorcerer Shrine's strongest warriors to chase after them. As they chased after them, they attacked at the same time, trying to stop them. The two sides fought as they flew. "All of you stay." Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a cold light as he used the greater teleportation art to chase after them. In a flash, he was tens of thousands of miles away. Yes, when Lu Ming broke through to the 9th level of the Divine Emperor realm, he was able to cast the art of transference and his speed was much faster. The distance he could cover in one move was also much shorter. When he had the strength of the 8th Godly Emperor layer, he could only teleport 10,000 li away. Now, he could teleport 30,000 li away. In terms of speed, it could be said to have increased explosively. Seeing Lu Ming chasing after them, the people of the Grand Magus God Palace were overjoyed. "Use your full strength to stop them," shouted the Great Sorcerer Shrine's Shrine Master. The Great Sorcerer Shrine's Shrine Master had the strength of the 5th Great Supreme God Layer. His attacks were astonishing. Dazzling lights shot towards the people of the ancient Sorcerer Shrine. The cultivators of the 4th Great Supreme God Layer were trembling. The difference between the 4th Great Supreme God Layer and the 5th Great Supreme God Layer was too big. They could only rely on the ancient Sorcerer Shrine's Shrine Master to stop the Great Sorcerer Shrine's Shrine Master's attacks. If the ancient Sorcerer Shrine's Shrine Master didn't attack, the cultivators of the 4th Great Supreme God Layer would be killed by the Great Sorcerer Shrine's Shrine Master. Therefore, the ancient Sorcerer Shrine Master had to stop them. That way, their speed would be much slower. On the other hand, Lu Ming was constantly rushing over. Lu Ming kept flickering in the air. Each time he flickered, he crossed 30,000 li. The distance between him and the ancient Sorcerer Shrine's Shrine Master and the others was getting shorter and shorter. The ancient Sorcerer Shrine's Shrine Master and the cultivators of the 4th Great Supreme God Layer pulled long faces. "Scatter! Let's escape!" shouted the ancient Sorcerer Shrine's Shrine Master. He used his full strength to block the attack of the Great Sorcerer Shrine's Shrine Master. The other 7 cultivators of the third great supreme god layer took advantage of that opportunity to run away in all directions. "Stop them!" shouted the great sorcerer shrine's shrine master. He also used his full strength and turned into an ancient secret technique to fight against the ancient sorcerer shrine's shrine master. The cultivators of the fourth great supreme god layer under the command of the great sorcerer shrine were chasing the cultivators of the ancient sorcerer shrine. The two sides kept fighting and flying. The cultivators of the great sorcerer shrine didn't want to kill their enemies, they only wanted to distract them. The cultivators of the ancient sorcerer shrine couldn't escape in a short time. The strength of the two sides was about the same. Even though the cultivators of the great sorcerer shrine only wanted to distract them and not kill them, if they weren't careful, the cultivators of the great sorcerer shrine could launch a fatal attack. That way, they couldn't be fast. In less than a minute, Lu Ming caught up with one of the cultivators of the fourth great supreme god layer. When the cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer saw that Lu Ming was catching up with him, he shouted furiously, "I don't believe that you can defeat me." "That," shouted the cultivator explosively. He was furious. He didn't retreat, instead, he threw himself at Lu Ming and attacked. However, when his attack, or even his body, got close to the range of the primordial god stone, his attack was extinguished like a candle flame. His own aura was also rapidly weakening. No, the cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer's face changed drastically. He didn't look ferocious anymore, he was terrified. "That," said Lu Ming coldly. He threw a punch and the cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer exploded. His body turned into a talisman and Lu Ming grabbed it. "So easy," the cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer from the great sorcerer shrine gasped when he saw that from a close distance. Even though he had expected that, he still couldn't calm down when he saw Lu Ming kill a cultivator who wasn't weaker than him with one punch. "Go and help the others," said Lu Ming to the cultivator. "Yes, yes, yes," nodded the cultivator hastily and ran away to help the others stop the cultivators of the ancient sorcerer shrine. If he can easily defeat a cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer, then it shouldn't be difficult for him to defeat a cultivator of the fifth great supreme god layer. Lu Ming looked at the leader of the ancient sorcerer shrine. Then, his silhouette flickered and he ran towards the great sorcerer shrine and the ancient sorcerer shrine. The battle between two cultivators of the fifth great supreme god layer was terrifying. Nobody dared to get close to the battle. That area had turned into an area of destruction. Even cultivators of the fourth great supreme god layer would be destroyed if they got close to that area. If you like the Wandao Dragon Emperor, please collect it. Chapter 4172. To be honest, Lu Ming did not dare to get close to the area where the battle of the fifth layer great supreme god was taking place. When he got close to the area, he did not continue to use the transference skill. Instead, he stopped and flew closer. That was because the periphery of that area was relatively safer. If he flew, he could retreat if he couldn't withstand the attack. After all, he had just obtained the ancient godly stone and he didn't know what it could do. He didn't know whether it could suppress cultivators of the fifth great supreme god layer or not, so he had to be careful. After all, those cultivators of the fifth great supreme god layer were much weaker than him. If the ancient godly stone couldn't suppress them, he would be in danger. Not to mention that he could not use the first-level heavenly soldier armor now. Even if he could use it, he would be blasted into smithereens by Lu Ming. However, it turned out that Lu Ming had worried too much. When Lu Ming approached the area, the violent and destructive land of the area melted immediately, just like ice and snow that had encountered flames. It didn't affect Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming was unimpeded. The ancient sorcerer shrine's leader's expression changed. He wanted to retreat, but the great sorcerer shrine's leader wouldn't let him go. He tried his best to stop him. "Piss off!" shouted the ancient sorcerer shrine's leader furiously. He didn't care about the consequences. He used his full strength to attack the great sorcerer shrine's leader. "Don't even think about leaving!" shouted the great sorcerer shrine's leader furiously. He retreated a bit and then attacked the ancient sorcerer shrine's leader again. Even though the ancient sorcerer shrine's leader was retreating, his speed was greatly affected. At that moment, Lu Ming didn't have any misgivings. He knew that the ancient godly stone could suppress cultivators of the fifth great supreme god layer. He immediately used the great teleportation technique to chase after the ancient sorcerer shrine's leader. Once he used the great teleportation technique, he was extremely fast. He kept getting closer to the ancient sorcerer shrine's leader. The ancient sorcerer shrine's leader's expression changed drastically. As one of the two overlords of the archaic world, he didn't want to die. He still had unfulfilled ambitions to unify the archaic world. Mu Yun, let me go and let me live. As long as you let me live, I can give you anything you want. If you want the primordial secret technique, I can give it all to you. Whatever treasures you want, I can give you. Whatever the Grand Magus Shrine gave you, I can give you double or even more. The temple master of the ancient sorcerer temple roared. At this moment, as long as he could survive, he would pay any price. The great sorcerer god temple had only given Lu Ming some benefits, but he could give him more. Upon hearing this, the grand sorcerer god palace master's expression changed. He was afraid that Lu Ming would agree to the grand sorcerer god palace's request. He was even afraid that Lu Ming would work with the ancient sorcerer shrine to deal with the grand sorcerer shrine. That would be a disaster. His heart couldn't help but rise to his throat. However, he immediately felt relieved. Not interested. My goal is to get rid of all of you. Lu Ming said coldly. He thought of Xing Qiao. He had promised Xing Qiao that he would avenge her and the Xing family. Since he had promised her and had the ability to do so, he would definitely do it. The ancient sorcerer shrine must be destroyed. You! The ancient sorcerer temple master's face darkened. His heart sank. He wanted to escape with all his might, but the grand sorcerer god temple master held him back so that he couldn't escape. There was once when he tried to escape faster and was almost hit by the grand sorcerer god temple master's killer move. Lu Ming was even closer to them now. Die for me! The ancient sorcerer temple master exploded completely. He let out a furious roar and his body seemed to have erupted like a volcano. A terrifying and scorching force dashed toward Lu Ming. Wherever it passed, the void turned pitch black. The reason for that was because everything in that region of space had been destroyed. However, when this terrifying energy got close to Lu Ming, it disappeared. It didn't affect Lu Ming at all. Great Aurora Art. With a thought, Lu Ming cast the Great Aurora skill. He transformed into an aurora and dashed out. In no time, he was within a certain range of the ancient sorcerer temple master. He was within the range of the primordial holy stone. The ancient sorcerer temple master's aura weakened rapidly. At the same time, the grand sorcerer temple master was also within the range of the primordial holy stone. His aura weakened rapidly too. I know. The ancient sorcerer temple master's face changed drastically. He felt that he had become much weaker than an ordinary first-level great god. His divine emperor realm was suppressed. Then he tried to retreat. However, would Lu Ming let him retreat? Boom! Lu Ming's body emitted a dazzling light. He punched the ancient sorcerer temple master's body. With a loud bang, the ancient sorcerer temple master's body exploded. Just like the ancient sorcerer temple master's body that had been destroyed by Lu Ming, it turned into a talisman. Then, Lu Ming put it into his ring. The temple master is dead. The people from the ancient sorcerer temple cried out in horror when they saw this. Even the ancient sorcerer temple master had been killed. Their only hope had been destroyed. The ancient sorcerer temple's morale was low. On the other hand, the great sorcerer temple's morale was high. Temple master, help me stop the others, said Lu Ming. Then, his silhouette flickered and he rushed towards the other cultivators of the fourth-level great god layer. After Lu Ming left, the suppressive force disappeared. At this moment, the Grand Sorcerer Divine Hall Master heaved a long sigh of relief. His back was drenched in cold sweat. That kind of feeling just now was too terrifying. He had a feeling that if Lu Ming had attacked him, he would have ended up like the ancient Sorcerer Temple Master. What does he have? Why can he oppress us? Forget it, we can't offend him. We have to be on good terms with him, thought the great sorcerer temple master. Then, he rushed towards a cultivator of the 4th level great god layer. After that, there was no suspense anymore. The cultivators of the 4th level great god layer couldn't fight back against Lu Ming. Besides, the great sorcerer temple's temple master had also joined the battle. As long as he caught up with them, they would die. After a short time, all the cultivators of the 4th level great god layer were killed. Lu Ming didn't stop. He continued to attack the other secret techniques of the ancient sorcerer temple. Those were the secret techniques of the ancient sorcerer temple. Besides, he could use them to increase his cultivation. How could Lu Ming let them go? Lu Ming killed all the secret techniques of the ancient sorcerer temple and turned them into talismans. Then, Lu Ming put them in his ring. Chapter 4173. In the end, the Great Sorcerer Shrine had won the battle. The crowd was cheering for the Great Sorcerer Shrine. This time, the ancient Sorcerer Shrine had been destroyed. Almost all of the strong cultivators had been killed. From now on, the Great Sorcerer Shrine would rule the entire ancient world. How could they not be happy about that? I've obtained almost 300 talismans. Lu Ming pondered carefully and a smile appeared on his face. Since the beginning of the battle, he had obtained almost 300 talismans. He had destroyed almost 300 of the ancient Sorcerer Shrine's secret skills. That was a great harvest. Little brother Mu Yun. At that moment, the Great Sorcerer Shrine's leader flew towards Lu Ming with a smile on his face. He was very happy. Leader. Lu Ming cupped his fists. You must need these talismans. The Great Sorcerer Shrine's leader took out a spatial ring and gave it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming took it and scanned it with his spiritual awareness. Then he smiled even more happily. The storage ring was filled with ancient secret skill runes as well as various ordinary secret skill runes. Lu Ming made a rough estimation. There were close to 200 ancient secret skill runes and thousands of ordinary secret skill runes. There were so many strong cultivators in the ancient Sorcerer Shrine. Not all of them had been killed by Lu Ming. Some of them had been killed by the Great Sorcerer Shrine's leader. For example, a few cultivators of the 4th Great Supreme God Layer had been killed by the Great Sorcerer Shrine's leader. Now, the Great Sorcerer Shrine's leader had given all the talismans they had obtained to Lu Ming. He wanted to make friends with Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't refuse and took them all. The ancient Sorcerer Shrine had about 800 talismans. More than 500 of them had been killed. About 300 had escaped. There are so many talismans. If I fuse with them, will I be able to break through to the Great Supreme God Layer? Lu Ming's eyes were burning with passion. There was a huge gap between the Godly Emperor Layer and the Great Supreme God Layer. At the same time, there was a huge gap that trapped many cultivators of the 9th Godly Emperor Layer. If he could make a breakthrough and reach the God Emperor realm, his fighting power would increase tremendously. Thinking of this, Lu Ming couldn't help but look forward to it. Hallmaster, there are still some fish that escaped the net. What do you plan to do? Lu Ming said. Of course we'll kill them. I'll send people to search the entire world, find them, and kill them all. The Grand Magus Temple Master's eyes flashed coldly. Lu Ming nodded and said, that kind of talisman is very useful to me. I hope you can give it to me after you get it. Of course. The Grand Magus God Shrine nodded. He only wanted to befriend Lu Ming, so he would not reject the offer. After the discussion, Lu Ming stepped out and came to the side of the first-class heavenly soldier. All the first-rate heavenly soldiers looked at Lu Ming with complicated gazes. Obviously, the biggest gain this time was Lu Ming. However, some of them sneered in their hearts. Lu Ming had offended Yi Yu and the heavenly human tribe. His life would not be easy after he left. What do you plan to do next? Lu Ming asked the first-rate heavenly soldiers. The longest they could stay in the archaic world was 3 years. However, it did not mean that they had to stay for 3 years before they could go back. They could go back at any time as long as they contacted the experts outside the heavenly palace. We've already gotten what we wanted here. There's no point in staying any longer. We plan to go out first. A first-rate heavenly soldier said. The others nodded. Oh, then you can go out first. I still need to wait for a while, Lu Ming said. Lu Ming had not obtained the remaining archaic secret skills of the ancient sorcerer temple, so he would not leave so easily. He planned to wait for a while and leave after he obtained those talismans. Anyway, as long as he left within 3 years, there would be no problem. Take care, the first-rate heavenly soldiers said. Some of them even thought that Lu Ming did not dare to go out to avoid Yi Yu and the others. However, what could he do if he stayed for a few more years? He would have to face them sooner or later. Swoosh, 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 the first-rate heavenly soldiers flew away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming followed the experts of the Grand Sorcerer Temple and returned to the Grand Sorcerer Temple. Lu Ming did not care about the aftermath of the battle. He would leave it to the Grand Sorcerer Temple. After all, the top experts of the ancient Sorcerer Temple had been killed. Although there were about 300 archaic secret skills left, most of them were at the first layer of the Emperor's Supreme God Realm. A few of them were at the second layer of the Emperor's Supreme God Realm. The Grand Sorcerer Temple could easily deal with the remaining people. He just needed to wait for his harvest. Lu Ming found a place to cultivate in seclusion in the Grand Sorcerer Temple. I'll integrate these talismans into my cells and see if I can make a breakthrough. Lu Ming thought for a while, then took out a few talismans and integrated them into his cells. Lu Ming immediately mastered the secret skill. He felt that he had reached the beginner level. At the same time, pure and powerful energy emanated from these few cells and surged into every cell in his body, increasing the intensity of the taboo power. Lu Ming could clearly feel that his strength had increased by a notch. Lu Ming cultivated quietly for a while. When he had completely digested the energy, Lu Ming took out a few more talismans and integrated them into his cells. Lu Ming still had about 700 archaic secret skill talismans. He did not integrate all of them into his cells at once. Instead, he integrated them into his cells one by one. This was because integrating a few hundred talismans at once would create a terrifying energy. If he did not make a breakthrough, he would explode from the energy. It would be safer to take things slow and slow. After integrating a few talismans, Lu Ming's cultivation level increased rapidly. Of course, at the beginning, Lu Ming had only integrated the talismans of the first great supreme god layer. After integrating about 100 talismans, Lu Ming's cultivation level had reached the top of the 9th godly emperor layer. That was the limit of the godly emperor layer. If he continued, he would reach the great supreme god layer. I'll integrate more talismans. I'll break through in one go. Lu Ming's eyes twinkled as he took out 10 talismans. Besides, those 10 talismans were the talismans of the 3rd great supreme god layer. He had integrated the talismans of the 3rd great supreme god layer before. According to his experience, integrating 10 talismans of the 3rd great supreme god layer would help him break through the bottleneck of the great supreme god layer. Even if it wasn't enough, it wouldn't be far from it. With a thought, 10 secret skill runes fused into 10 different cells. Lu Ming had a familiar feeling. He realized that he had already mastered the 10 archaic secret skills. Now, he just had to wait for the pure energy in his cells to help him break through. However, Lu Ming waited for a while, but there was no energy in his cells. What's going on? Lu Ming frowned. According to his experience, the time had passed. Chapter 4174. According to Lu Ming's experience, the cells had already released a strong and pure energy to help him break through. But now, time had passed, but there was no movement in the 10 cells that had been fused with the secret technique runes. What was going on? Could it be that the 10 talismans didn't release pure energy? But Lu Ming had also used the talismans of the 3rd great supreme god layer before, and they were useful too. Besides, the 10 talismans didn't work at all? It couldn't be a coincidence. Lu Ming didn't believe it. He took out a dozen more talismans. This time, there were talismans from the 1st to the 3rd great supreme god layer, and they went into the cells. Then he waited. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour passed, and still nothing happened. There was no reaction. At this moment, Lu Ming's expression was somewhat ugly. Would it lose its effect then? He had a lot of talismans, including talismans of the 4th and 5th Great Supreme God layer. He thought he could break through to the Great Supreme God layer in one go, or even more. However, reality was like a bucket of cold water that was poured over his head, causing his fiery heart to cool down. Let's try again. Lu Ming didn't want to give up. He waited for a while, but there was still no reaction. He took out a dozen more talismans, but there was still no reaction. Even though he could control the talismans after they went into the cells, there was no pure energy. What's going on? Lu Ming didn't understand. He was disappointed. I think I know what's going on, said Master Guimo. Do you know what's going on? What's going on? Is it because the runes have lost their effectiveness? Lu Ming asked a few questions. It's not that the talismans are ineffective. If I'm not mistaken, your cultivation has reached a bottleneck, said Guimo. Reached a bottleneck? Are the talismans ineffective? Lu Ming was surprised. He knew that he had reached a bottleneck. He had already broken through to the top of the 9th Godly Emperor layer, and the next step was to break through to the Great Supreme God layer. It's extremely difficult to break through from the Godly Emperor layer to the Great Supreme God layer. You can't rely on pure strength. If you could rely on pure strength, the Heavenly Palace and the other strong clans wouldn't have so many people stuck at the top of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. Guimo said. Lu Ming nodded. Indeed, in the Heavenly Palace, there were many cultivators of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. Most of the young geniuses who had come to the ancient world were cultivators of the 9th Godly Emperor layer, especially the core disciples of the Celestial Clan and the Heavenly Palace. How could they lack treasures with pure strength? Definitely not. But why didn't they break through? For a deity emperor to break through to the God Emperor realm, one needs to comprehend and encounter opportunities. Once one comprehends and encounters opportunities, one will naturally break through. Guimo said. Comprehension? What do I need to comprehend? Lu Ming asked. It's hard to say. The higher the cultivation level, the less people can teach you, because everyone's comprehension is different, especially when breaking through to the Godly Lord layer. Nobody can teach you anything, you can only rely on yourself. It's better for a godly emperor to break through to the Great Supreme God layer, but you have a forbidden body. Cultivation and breaking through are even more special. Nobody can teach you anything, you can only rely on yourself. I'm guessing that those talismans don't contain pure strength, they do. They're just hidden in your cells. Because your cultivation level has reached a bottleneck, you can't break through. That's why you can't release that pure strength. In the future, when you break through to the Great Supreme God layer, those talismans will release their strength. Guimo said. Lu Ming was pensive. He thought Guimo was right. That was probably the case. Otherwise, he couldn't explain it. Even though Lu Ming wasn't happy, he couldn't do anything about it. At least, the pure strength in those talismans wouldn't be wasted. When he broke through to the Great Supreme God layer, it would appear again. At that time, his cultivation level would most likely improve by leaps and bounds. Then, it shouldn't be a problem for me to integrate all these talismans into my cells, right? Lu Ming asked. It shouldn't be a problem. When you break through to the Great Supreme God layer, your cultivation level will skyrocket. Even if the energy of those talismans erupts together, it won't kill you. Guimo said. Then, let's continue to integrate them. Lu Ming continued to take out the talismans and began to integrate them. Anyway, once he integrated the talismans, he would be able to master the secret technique. When he faced his enemies, he would have more means to attack. Moreover, the more talismans he integrated, the stronger the quality of the forbidden strength would be. Even though his cultivation level didn't increase, his combat strength was constantly increasing. Just like that, Lu Ming continued to integrate the talismans. When all the ancient secret technique talismans had been integrated into his cells, the number of ancient secret techniques he had mastered had exceeded 500. Attack type, speed type, defense type, support type, terrifying energy type, and so on. There were all kinds of secret techniques. As long as he wanted to use them, he would be able to use them with just a thought. This allowed Lu Ming's combat strength to increase by quite a bit. Although it was difficult to increase the strength of the higher the level, the more difficult it was to improve. However, Lu Ming had integrated many secret skill runes, and they were all secret skill runes of ancient secret skills. After integrating all the ancient secret technique talismans into his cells, Lu Ming took out the ordinary secret technique talismans. He still had more than 3,000 ordinary secret technique talismans in his hands. He continued to integrate them into his cells. While Lu Ming was integrating the secret technique talismans, the entire Great Sorcerer Shrine was mobilized to hunt down the ancient secret techniques of the ancient Sorcerer Shrine. After killing them, the talismans were all sent to Lu Ming. Just like that, Lu Ming cultivated in seclusion and stayed in the Great Sorcerer Shrine for a whole year. In a year, the remaining members of the ancient Sorcerer Shrine were basically hunted down by the Great Sorcerer Shrine. All the secret technique talismans fell into Lu Ming's hands and were integrated into his cells by Lu Ming. This allowed Lu Ming to master more than 800 types of ancient mystic skills. This was an extremely terrifying number. At this moment, the forbidden energy in Lu Ming's body had greatly improved in quality. Lu Ming's combat strength had also skyrocketed. Lu Ming estimated that as a divine emperor, he would be able to fight someone 7 levels higher than him. This was the most conservative estimate. In fact, Lu Ming believed that it would be more than that. Lu Ming was confident that if he were to fight with Yi Yu now, he could easily suppress Yi Yu based on his own abilities. The other party would not be able to resist at all. I still have many ordinary secret techniques that I haven't mastered yet. There are also some ancient secret techniques that I have just mastered. I wonder how powerful I will be once I master them. Lu Ming pondered. Chapter 4175. Lu Ming had mastered more than 8,000 types of ordinary secret skills, and all of them had reached the phenomenal success stage. He had mastered more than 800 secret skills, and most of them were at the beginner level. Even so, Lu Ming's fighting strength had increased tremendously. However, he still had more than 20,000 secret skills that he hadn't mastered yet. As he mastered more and more secret skills in the future, to what extent would his battle prowess increase? Was this the power of the forbidden body? As long as he could master more secret skills, his fighting strength would increase. Could it be that his fighting strength would increase infinitely? Lu Ming didn't think it was possible. Infinitely increasing one's fighting strength was ridiculous. Everything had a limit. Lu Ming guessed that the forbidden body also had a limit. However, he hadn't reached that limit yet. It's about time to leave. Lu Ming stood up and walked out. He had been in the ancient world for more than a year and a half. He guessed that Yi Yu and the others had already left. He should leave too. Lu Ming said goodbye to the Great Magus Shrine's leader and the others. Then he left the Great Magus Shrine. Phew, he's finally gone. After sending Lu Ming off, the Grand Sorcerer Divine Hall Master heaved a long sigh of relief. He felt refreshed and relaxed. As long as Lu Ming was there, the Great Magus Shrine's leader would feel as if a sharp sword was floating above his head. Even though the ancient Magus Shrine had been destroyed and the ancient world was under the control of the Great Magus Shrine, as long as Lu Ming was there, the Great Magus Shrine's leader would feel as if the Great Magus Shrine was Lu Ming. Even though he had the strength of the 5th Great Supreme God Layer and was much stronger than Lu Ming, he was always afraid in front of Lu Ming. As long as Lu Ming was there, the Great Magus Shrine's leader would feel as if a boulder was pressing down on his heart. Now that Lu Ming was gone, the Great Magus Shrine's leader could finally relax. Now he was the real overlord of the ancient world. After Lu Ming left the Grand Magus God Temple, he took out a jade tablet and entered a message. A moment later, Lu Ming felt a powerful force enveloping him. With a pull, his figure disappeared from where he stood. The next moment, Lu Ming appeared in a void. Lu Ming glanced around and discovered a huge sphere. The formation runes formed by the 3,000 ancient secret arts and countless ordinary secret arts were circulating and glowing. Lu Ming knew that he had already left the archaic world and returned to the desolate universe. Mu Yun, you finally couldn't hold it in and dared to come out. At this moment, a cold and indifferent voice resounded. The voice was filled with killing intent. Lu Ming knew it was Yi Yu's voice the moment he heard it. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice and frowned slightly. There was a group of people over there. This group of people had entered the archaic world with Lu Ming, Yi Yu, Yi Er, and more than a dozen other heavenly human tribe prodigies, as well as the core disciples of the heavenly palace. In addition, the 39 first-class heavenly soldiers were also there. Surrounding these people were a few heavenly human tribe experts. They were the experts who had brought them here. Lu Ming frowned. These people should have left the archaic world long ago, but they did not leave. It was as if they were deliberately waiting for him to come out. Yi Yu and the other heavenly human tribe prodigies were looking coldly at Lu Ming. Why wouldn't I dare? I was just delayed sometimes. What are you doing here? Picking me up? Lu Ming said. How dare you speak to us in such a tone at this time? You deserve to die. Yi Er, who was beside Yi Yu, shouted loudly. Coupled with his status as a heavenly human tribe member, he was quite imposing. An ordinary person would have been frightened by him. However, Lu Ming still looked at him expressionlessly. Mu Yun, the elders of the heavenly human tribe are here. Do you admit your crime? Yi Yu said coldly. Admit my crime? What crime have I committed? Lu Ming replied. What crime? Then let me count it for you. You are arrogant and conceited, repeatedly contradicting the heavenly human tribe. This is a heinous crime. Do you admit it? Yi Yu shouted. Oh, what crime is this? You are insulting me for no reason? Why can't I refute you when you are suppressing me for no reason? I am right, so of course I can refute. What crime is there in this? Lu Ming laughed. You are twisting words and forcing logic. Secondly, you are audacious. You dare to attack the heavenly human tribe and even want to kill us. This is an unforgivable crime. Yi Yu continued. What other crimes do you have? Tell me all of them. Lu Ming said. Thirdly, we found the opportunity inside, but you tried to snatch it. You deserve to die. Do you admit your crime? Yi Yu continued. Admit my crime? What a joke. The second crime you mentioned is that you attacked me first and wanted to kill me first. Can't I resist? You want to kill me, so I am guilty of resisting? Do you really treat us as slaves and kill us whenever you want? How can the various races of the universe be willing to work for you? As for wanting to kill you, that is a complete slander. If I really wanted to kill you, would you be able to come out alive? As for the third crime, that is even more ridiculous. I remember very clearly that before entering the great ancient world, the seniors of the heavenly human tribe clearly said that the opportunity in the great ancient world belongs to whoever finds it. In other words, there is free competition inside. So, I can naturally take action if I find the opportunity. If you want us to work for you obediently and give you all the treasures we find, you can tell us in advance, Lu Ming replied coldly. Every word he said pulled the various races of the universe to his side and increased his influence. Sure enough, the expressions of the first-class heavenly soldiers were a little ugly. Indeed, as Lu Ming said, before entering the great ancient world, the experts of the heavenly human tribe had said that the opportunity in the great ancient world belonged to whoever found it. They didn't say that they were to go in and scout for the heavenly human tribe and be used as tools by the heavenly human tribe. In fact, the people of the heavenly human tribe wouldn't say that. Otherwise, it would chill the hearts of the various races of the universe. You quibble. Do you think your glib tongue is useful? Today, you must pay the price for what you have done. Yi Yu shouted. Then, he turned around and bowed to the heavenly human tribe powerhouses. Seniors, Mu Yun has committed treason and must be executed. The heavenly human tribe experts frowned. Their purpose of letting Lu Ming and the others go in with Yi Yu was as Lu Ming said. They wanted Lu Ming and the others to be used by Yi Yu and the others. Before going in, they had said that it was a fair competition and that the opportunity belonged to whoever found it. However, they knew the strength of Yi Yu and the others. Lu Ming and the other first-class heavenly soldiers couldn't do anything in front of Yi Yu and the others. They could only obediently become tools. They didn't expect that Lu Ming would appear. I beg for monthly votes. I beg for monthly votes. Everyone, please vote for me. Thank you. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.